Good afternoon, Mr. Robbie Daniels.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, the UDRCAST. I'm Bill Ward. I'm the host, and I'm your good friend, and I really appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Bill.
Yeah, dude. This podcast it's a version of the UDRCAST, but it's a totally separate kind of ideology. This is about interviewing, well, at least this segment of 10 parts, and you're one of the 10 parts series, will be interviewing people who have basically dedicated their life to serving people, Indigenous people specifically. And that's what you have done, and that's what you do. And so I just want to thank you for being here and thanking you for what you do. And, how's your day treating you?
The day's okay, kind of stayed out after the round dance last night and kind of, tired today.
Yeah, how was the round dance?
It's pretty good.
Did you dance?
Yeah. That's the only reason I go now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what I put in my head, okay, I want to go dance and let go of a lot of things, It's, where before, it's not like that.
Before you went, for what reasons?
Go snag.
Oh, God. Did you bring a blanket? That's hilarious. Bro.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I was out last night too, and I know you know that because I invited you to come with me to a punk concert. But you figured you'd go to the round dance, so I went to the punk concert, and I had a really good time too, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think what I'd like to talk about is, you run Sober Crew, or you are one of the co-founders. And you're the only remaining co-founder still at Sober Crew, are you not?
Yes, I am.
And you primarily take a lot of the weight of what Sober Crew does on yourself, right? And you have some helpers that help you, but, if you're not moving and making the steps forward, things aren't really happening, correct?
No, it's correct.
Okay. So way back, let's go back a few years. How many years sober are you?
5 years.
So about 5.5, maybe 6 years, I met you. I met you. Do you remember where we met?
Yeah, at Alpha House AA meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You had a brown jacket.
did I have a brown jacket? Yeah. Yeah, dude. And I remember that meeting, and I remember you sharing. And you also shared about, the Wildbriety program, and which I didn't know much about at the time. And just your message was so powerful. I was like, oh, I got to get to know this guy, or I got to meet him, or whatever. And after the meeting, we met and we introduced ourselves. And who would have known at that time that our friendship would grow over these years to a pretty solid friendship, eh? Did you have any idea it would go that way?
No. To me, you're kind of pretty intimidated to the approach, but I didn't think I have a good friendship and it'd be really big pillar in my recovery.
And it's funny you say that because we have totally different approaches, right? I'm like a little louder and a little more direct, and I do things the way that I do it, and you're not as loud and maybe not as direct, but we're on the same team. But for us to like maybe come together and become such good friends, I think it's maybe not so much of how we are with our personalities, but what the main goal has always been, and I think that's to grow and serve.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
So when you were in Alpha House and you were in there with a few friends, right?
Yeah.
How did the very beginning of Sober Crew happen? Like, I'm pretty sure, you correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't plan on what Sober Crew is today. You know, your 5,000 followers on Facebook and hitting all these events and doing what you do. It was just a few of you that got sober and wanted to stay sober, so you just hung out. Or how did it start?
It's actually started from the detox day. You know, there's a few of us that were in the detox, and after we came from the detox, we stayed, stayed connected and went to sober living and stuff, and we had continued to go to ceremony together, and we went to AA meetings Monday to Sunday, and just kept doing that, and eventually more and more people started to join us and just going to meetings and stuff like that, and doing sober fun things.
And did you call your guys' selves Sober Crew?
Well, the name Sober Crew is we were in a men's group, and that elder asked me what my week was, and I told him, like me and my friends, my sober crew, we went to meetings and stuff like that. And ever since then, that name stuck. And after my buddy Donovan started putting stuff on his clothes, his shoes. I mean, not shoes, but pants and sweaters and like hats and sober crew, and that's where it started.
Yeah. And I remember Wade, he was a worker at Alpha House, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And is he the one that took you through the Wellbriety?
Wade Maud and Michael Firing Stoney.
Okay, so I knew Wade pretty good, and he reached out to me one day, and he's like, "Hey, Bill, can you want to come to a sweat?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to come to a sweat." And he's like, "Can you give a few guys a ride?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem. Who is it?" And he's like, "Robbie Daniels and Donovan, and I forget who else, but there was a few of you guys." And so I got in touch with you. I think that's the first time I got your number. And then I messaged you, and then the next thing I knew, I was picking you up at a house. I think it was just up off of somewhere up Marta Loop or Bankview or something. Can't really remember. But anyway, I picked you guys up, and we went out to Morley, to that sweat lodge, and we started pulling down the old sweat lodge and putting up a new one, and that was kind of how it got started. And I'm pretty sure you guys all had hats that said Sober Crew.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we kind of walked through the next year, what did Sober Crew do to, like, what did you guys do, and how did it start growing?
Well, I started to get the passion of, I'm not a singer. I've never grew up singing and stuff like that, or culture and stuff. And Wade Mott was big. He helped us, and taking us to ceremony and stuff. But for singing, men's drum group really helped me, and I learned passion of singing, and stuff like that. And they taught me how to make my own drum there, and I took a workshop. And after I made my drum, I started to teach myself some songs, and I learned them, and I taught them to my friends, and we learned them well enough to go sing on the street, in Stephen Avenue, in Olympic Plaza, where homeless people are. Even going up to the back alleys, by the rivers and stuff, and then, yeah.
So you just made a drum, did the men's drum group,
Yeah.
got a little confidence, taught your buddies, and then you started just walking around and drumming for people?
Yeah.
How would you approach them? What would you say to them? Or would you even say anything?
No, it's so and that's the thing. I had a drum, and I carried it everywhere I went there. Even by myself, I go down in the river and stuff and start practicing, and maybe even by myself. I stand by the street, but we just go up there, pull out our drums, and start singing. Sometimes we just sit, tell my friends we'll meet here at the Old Pig Plaza, and we'll sit there and start singing, and bring some snacks, and sing for the homeless people.
And would people come up and start listening?
Yeah, start listening, even start dancing. Have a little round dance, and they'll sit around, where we're sitting, and it really touched them, because some of them start crying, and really appreciate it, and
People would just start crying for no real reason?
no reason, start crying, and it really helped them,
And then you would just start talking to people from there, and why does your heart lean towards like these homeless people?
Well, if when I was homeless, if I didn't see none of that, I didn't see. But if I did, it would have helped me a lot, it would have helped me a lot. But it's very. I'm always thinking, what can help them, and this, what I'm trying to show them, what helped me, maybe it'll help them,
How long were you homeless?
I was homeless about 7 years, 8 years. I was homeless, and
And where was most of your homelessness?
in Calgary.
So on the streets of downtown Calgary?
Yeah.
And you just did drugs and drank and walked around, or what?
Yeah, drugs, drinking, and it was mostly needles and stuff like that. And the last bit of my street life, I started to really use drugs.
When you were homeless, did you see a lot of people from your nation downtown, or people that you knew?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you do and did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And how did it make you feel then when you were homeless and using, and you would run into people that you knew from home or that you just knew? What was it like? How did you feel?
Like when I was homeless, and meeting people from my reserve and stuff. Yeah. Actually kind of felt, like not alone and stuff. Even my family member, my brother, my niece, my sister, my brother was a good my brother was a good man. He never did drugs and stuff like that. And after mom passed away, that seeing my family members on the street is pretty. It hurt, It hurt my feelings. Watching my brother sleep under a tree or behind a bin, stuff like that. Watching my niece, my sister. It's dark times,
So, in a way, when you first started seeing family members or people that you knew, there was a little bit of like
comfort. Yeah.
That you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you knew these people. And so basically your family was all homeless downtown. But it was still family.
Mm-hmm. Even just other homeless too, not just my people from my reserve,
So there's like a community type feeling,
sure.
right?
For sure, yeah, for sure.
And then fast forward till you being sober, you start drumming and just walking the streets randomly to sing songs for people. And no one told you to do that, right? You just had an intuitive thought or action to do that?
One morning I really had a really strong urge to, take my drum, my smudge and stuff like that, and go go see the homeless people. I don't know why I felt like that. One morning I did, eh? So I just followed my gut, and that's what I did. And after it led to me having a job at Alpha House. Yeah.
It led to a job at Alpha House, which you still have.
Yeah. Yes.
To this day.
Yeah. 4 years.
So as you were drumming around downtown, and now you're getting sober, you're living in a safe place, and you're doing things that are constructive to building a good life, and you're still working with the marginalized population out at Alpha House, and you're still doing your own drumming. And what was it like seeing these people now that you're getting sober? Did it change? And some of them, I'm sure you had to leave behind because they were stuck on the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're doing better. And then going back into the streets, what was it like seeing them as you're getting better and they're not?
Well, in the beginning, like when I started to go smudge people and, working at Alpha House, I kind of got that, like this guy's trying to act good, from the homeless people. And then I didn't have that connection, because I was didn't have that good connection really, because, they think I'm doing good, but I'm better. But after a while, I kept doing it, and doing it, and go feeding the homeless, singing for them, smudge. And, I kind of built that trust, and, because, like when I was on the street, I was, got to the point where I was by myself, I spent a lot of time by myself. Where in the beginning, I had a bunch of friends, and then, but afterwards, psychosis and stuff really got to me, and people didn't want to hang out with me, like I was, hearing voices and stuff like that, and people, didn't want to hang out with me, and then I got to be lonely at times, and I was by myself, and and afterwards, that all changed when I sobered up, started connecting with these homeless people more, and then after a while, now they look up to me and really, respect me enough to not even ask me for money, then, that's one thing I really, I admire about them, they really struggling and stuff, and they're hungry, everything, but they respect me enough not to ask me for money,
That's a pretty powerful statement right there. They respect you enough to not ask you for money.
Mm-hmm.
So is it okay to say that the people that they do ask for money that they don't respect?
It's a good question. Yeah. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I don't either. But I think because you've been so consistent, and at first people, this is pretty common, and you just alluded to it, that they'll judge. Oh, you think you're better than me now that you're sober, and like, I don't want your handouts, and you're not better than me, and blah, blah, blah. This kind of thing is, you experience that, right?
Even some people laughed at me because they joked around and said, where you going? You gonna go see your people? But I kept doing it, and yeah.
That's one of the biggest things I found in serving is being consistent and showing up and being the same person.
Yeah.
And being loving and being kind and not reacting to some of the nasty stuff people might say, and just trying to be consistent, man. And, I think what it does is over time, they do respect that, and they see that person is legitimately trying to help, and it just chips away that that ego that they're in, and then they do trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been doing this drumming thing around downtown for about 4 or 5 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and you still do it today.
Yes, I do.
And back then you did it many times solo.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Many times solo, and then people started wanting to come with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did the outreach portion of what Sober Crew does, how did that start?
Well, we were, like I said, we were out there singing and stuff like that, and our group started to get bigger and stuff, and we were wondering how, what more can we do. We started to volunteer with the Bear Clan, and we did that regularly, and there was actually kind of, we had a lot of people with us, and we just decided we should start our own. We have enough people, and my buddy Bobby applied for a grant, and we got approved for that small grant, and with that small grant we got our first buggies, and a bit of food, and ever since then we started, and then we really relied on the community for support, for donations and honorariums. People come and ask us to come sing nowadays, and with that honorarium they give us, it all goes to outreach and stuff. And, yeah.
And in those beginning days, I think I remember you guys or someone posting on one of the social medias, like you guys were making the sandwiches every time you'd go out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what did that look like? You buy 100 loaves of bread, and and now you guys are putting butter and mustard and ham and cheese on them, or what were you guys making?
If a few times we had to use peanut butter and jam, it's because we didn't have that much funds, first started off like 50 to 100 sandwiches, and went up to 150 lunch bags, and basically, we just kept it at 150,
And where would you get the donations dropped off? You guys, you live at your house by yourself. Your friends live at their houses by themselves. And where would all these it's not like you have a storefront or anything.
No, we used their basement. My friends, they used their basement, the whole basement, for donations. Put up shelves and everything, and that's where our donations went.
Wow.
Yeah, from their basement.
How much of your time did this type of work take out of you?
Well, it's like, well, for me, it's just like 24/7. I carry an Narcan with me. I'm always doing outreach, and it's like it's another job, outside of your job. But you don't get paid for it. You do it from your heart. And yeah.
And 24/7. And you don't get paid for it. And it's like another job outside the job, but really your job that you go and get paid from isn't really a job either, other than you get paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing the same thing everywhere you go, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say you've been given a role to play. You've been assigned a role, and you play the role in your life every day, no matter where you go or what you do, 24/7. just so happens that one of your roles you get compensated with finances. But it's not even like,
Not even much.
it's not much, and you're not doing it for the money anyway, but you got to stay alive. When you think about what this type of work gives you, does it fill you up and give you energy, or does it deplete you and take away energy? Or both?
Well, both, I guess, for sure. It really helps with my, with my recovery too. Feeding the homeless is like giving yourself life. Helping the less fortunate, you're giving yourself life, and it really is a big part of my recovery too. Is serving the community and especially drumming and stuff. Yeah.
So over these years, I know you're in your third year of the walk that you do. What's the walk name? I can never pronounce it properly.
Amah Nabino. That's a masculine term, Amah Nabino. Yeah.
And it means taking my spirit home?
They're taking me home.
They're taking me home. Yeah. So you're in your third year of your walk, and you're in, I think, your third year of doing drum groups at Sonalta and what's that church called?
Lantern Church.
Lantern.
Yeah.
So third year of that as well?
Yeah.
So you do 2 days a week of drumming, right? Wednesdays and Sundays?
Yeah.
And that's a big commitment, eh? When you first started, how many people were showing up?
There was just us in the group. When we first started, there was just, the one, us friends, we sat around the drum, started to, and then, I don't know, all the people started to walk in, come, sit around the drum, and it's like, oh, okay, well, let's make this public, and then we just posted, and people started to come, people that are in recovery started to come and meet other sober people, and, connection, there's a lot of people that want to sober you up, but they don't know, all the friends they have are addicts, and when they come here, and, they meet other people that are in recovery, and,
And so started out small, and now it's grown. It grew into 2 sessions a week. And what do you think that brings to the people who come? What does it give them?
Well, a lot of people, they come with barriers, like barriers and, self-centeredness, and they, that drum is, like I said, is a big part of my recovery, our recovery, and, that spirit, that drum has helped me, myself, and many people break our barriers, and, because the first time we sat around that drum, we sat there, we tried to sing, and we just heard the drums. We didn't hear nobody, sing, and, but after a while, after a few sessions, everybody just, that broke that barrier, confidence started to come back, and, all the good, feelings, started to come back, and I see a lot of that, a lot of people come there with shyness or some sort of a, trauma, or I don't know, like ADHD or whatever. And they after a while they just bust out and start singing and start smiling and stuff. And after the drum, everybody leaves happy, shaking hands, and sometimes they, nowadays sometimes I get tired, but people, what they say, like this man came to me and he said, oh, and I need this, I can't wait for this, I look forward to this all the time. Some people that struggle with and depression, loneliness, single men, that live at home by themselves. They come to the drumming and then they just look forward to it, and they just go home happy. Everybody go home happy,
My apologies on coughing. When you first sat around that drum and you guys would just hit the drum and you wouldn't sing, and you said that happened for the first number of sessions.
Yeah.
What was it? People were too afraid to sing?
Too shy, maybe some trauma in their life, or and
You weren't even singing?
no, we tried, but not really busting it out. Like, we tried, and we were like sitting in front, singing in front of. It's just, we're ex-addicts, we have lots. We're recovering addicts, have lots of hurt and lots of damage, and and the healing process is not easy, especially singing in front of people and stuff like that. But that drum helped us a lot,
Mm.
Yeah, a lot.
That's so beautiful, bro. And
Like, none of us know nothing about drumming, or grew up or have roots, or lost our culture,
Mhm.
and it connect us to our culture, Yeah.
what I picked up on in your last couple minutes ago, you said, men who are lonely, who live by themselves. And there's a lot of lonely men out there that don't have anywhere to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of men don't have girlfriends and can't get a girlfriend. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't know, in that depression and anxiety and, especially with our Indigenous people. And a lot of us struggle with self-worth based on, over the last 500 years of what's gone on and being in on our cellular level, blood memory, and then just living the lives that we've lived. It's not easy. And so being an outlet and just having that insight that you just said, to be able to show up for a single man who might be struggling, and to know how important that is, and to listen to the guy who comes up to you and says, I can't wait to do this. It's like the highlight of his week.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
And like, trying to picture maybe the sadness as he's walking home alone and has to wait for another week for drumming to come, right? And like, these are things people don't think about, but these are things you think about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you make these efforts to show up twice a week, right? Once a week's that's a big commitment, man. And now to do it twice a week in 2 different places, and you're the drum keeper, and you got to make sure the door's open, and you got to know the songs. And in many ways, you have to talk to a lot of people in those time frames because they're coming to you. And then to find the words, and that's a lot, bro. But I think we've talked about this before. The Creator's given you this job, and it's almost like you just know that, and you do it. And so my question earlier was, does it drain you or does it lift you up? And you said both, and we just talked about how it really lifts you up, and how everyone goes away happy, and you've broken through barriers through the spirit of the drum and what it's taught you. And tell us ways that maybe it sucks energy out of you, and what do you do to try to recharge?
Well, nowadays I live a certain way of life, get up with the sun, get up early and smudge, give thanks that by the end of the day, pray for my food and pray for others. And I attend, regular ceremonies, and sweat lodges and stuff that really helped me in my recovery, And that's where I let go of, energy, and inside the sweat, and, as creator to take these, whatever I'm carrying, and, like there's a lot, people like us, what we do, we carry a lot of, like you said, we carry a lot of things, we take in a lot of things. This is how natural laws, that's how it works, and it does, it's pretty exhausting, and but I think about the people, and I think about what those people said, those men, what they said, that it keeps me going, those people that come, and just the stuff they say, and they, I know how much they appreciate it, how much they look forward to it, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting Billwardlife and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast.
And so you mentioned ceremony and culture. Did you grow up with a lot of that in your life?
No, I never.
No?
I didn't know my culture. My family is mostly colonized. And I grew up with Jesus pictures on the wall, and mom taking me to church and stuff. But I've turned, when I started to sober up, I turned to the culture, our way of life, our traditional way of life. And I struggled with, I was kind of struggling between, Christianity and our culture. I was even afraid of my own culture, and, I was like almost afraid. I struggled with that for a while, and then had to really pray about it. And, I told myself I'm Indigenous, I'm First Nation, Creator gave us a way, gave us our own way of life. And now, I try to walk our way of life. There's a lot to learn, and by doing walking the way of life, it changed my outview in life, a lot, big time, like my view and things, and even water, respecting water and stuff, and the way I view things has really changed because, culture,
Mm-hmm. So I remember, for me too, very similar. I knew nothing about my culture. And, in my 6 years sobriety, when I did a bunch of inner work, I realized I spent my whole life trying to run away from being Indigenous. And it was part of my spiritual sickness that actually drove me to use drugs and alcohol, because I wasn't able to be partly who I was, which was Indigenous. And I remember, in my first year, I went to my first sweat, and I think it was in my second year, end of my first year, I went to my first powwow, and I started like touching base on these things. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first powwow I ever went to was Sutena powwow. I stood beside the drummers and the singers, and I felt it in me. Mm-hmm. And I knew I had to go more that way. And so over these last 9 into my 10th year, I've been really leaning into it. But I remember also there was a point where, like when I first started recovery, I couldn't say the word God. I'd say higher power. And I know creator was a term to describe higher power also, but I couldn't even say the word creator because I felt like a fraud. I felt like I wasn't even Indigenous. So it was really strange to say both creator and God, but I could say higher power. And my grandmother, who passed away in 2009, she was basically my higher power, so I talked a lot to my grandma. But then even as the years went on, like I got a coat from a First Nations community, and it said, Ochis First Nations right on the coat. It was a brand new, nice black coat that I got from me and my dad doing a workshop out there. And dude, I never wore that jacket. I couldn't wear the jacket because I couldn't come to terms with that I was Indian yet, or something, or I wasn't proud yet, or I don't know what the problem was, man. And then about 5 years ago, I wore that jacket. It was brand new, man, and I already had it for like 3 or 4 years. And I wore it, and I was so nervous wearing this jacket outside, bro. Because I hadn't healed so many areas of myself, and I didn't want to be labeled as Indigenous. But I was more accepting of it because I put the jacket on. And then let's fast forward to these medallions. I'm wearing one today. I got a couple medallions like 3 years ago, and they were really beautiful. And that was when I started sundancing. There was a little store that we'd pull over and, pick up some of these medallions and different types of things in this Indigenous store that was owned by white people. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. First time ever wearing a medallion, bro. Like, I had to really contemplate whether I was going to wear this thing out, because I just didn't feel like I earned the right to wear a First Nations medallion, even though this medallion was made in China. You know what I'm saying? Right? And so for me, bro, it's taken a lot of obstacles and barriers to break through to accept. I have a necklace in my bedroom right now, and it's a beautiful necklace. It's a bone necklace that ties tight, and I've been wanting to wear it, but I just can't put it on yet, man. But I know I'm going to, because I've been praying on it, and I'm going to wear it one day. But these are the deep-rooted aspects of self-worth that, I've had to overcome, and you've had to overcome many in your own way. And we can't imagine what some of our people are still going through. So it's tough, right? I shouldn't swear. Yeah, so what's it been like you navigating, finding your true nature of being Indigenous? Being given a pipe, being given a drum, people will look at you and just assume that you've been in the culture your whole life, right? Or whatever. And like,
back home, I started, I didn't really, was a good person on my reserve, eh? And, people didn't look at me well. I had the bad reputation, but on Sundances, I go there, help them, set up the Sundance. And first year, I kind of got that feeling, what this guy doing? But I went the second year, and I helped out, chop down the tree, haul tree, and then make the Sundance. Then the third year, and then I helped out, and people started to look at me. And just recently, a pipe holder, a respected pipe holder from my reserve, came and shook my hand, and almost made me cry, because he told me, I see you always helping out in these kind of things, I see you, and I'm really grateful to see you like this, like this. He told me, he said it twice, and almost made me cry there. That made me feel really, really good, especially from a respected elder and pipe holder. Yeah.
Wow, bro. And with ceremony, when you go, no, maybe I shouldn't go there. That's too. I was going to talk about being in the lodge and some of the things that we experience in the lodge, but I don't need to go there. But walking through these years, getting different rights, learning different things, being looked at as a leader, you've embraced it and taken it in a good way, hey?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, like, I work at Drumheller Pen a couple days a week. I go into First Nations communities. And what I've learned over these years, these last number of years especially, is people really look up to me as somebody who has knowledge of our people and our history. And for the first while, dude, I couldn't even like believe that people would think of me like that, because I never thought of myself like that. But it was kind of like I made a decision to say okay. And why did I say okay? Is because the proof and the fact of the matter was, when I would ask guys, has anyone here ever, drummed or sang? There'd be like 20 Indigenous guys there, and they'd all say no. And I at least knew 3 songs, right? I know many more now, but I was like, holy man, some of these guys are like older than me, and they've spent their whole life on the nation, and they don't know any songs. I was doing a group yesterday, a circle that me and my dad do for one of the sober living homes in Calgary. And I had brought my pipe to do a teaching. And I asked everyone there, and there's about 10 guys, does anyone know anything about the pipe? Crickets. No one knew, bro. And then, so I talked about the pipe. And I talked about a couple of songs, the personal pipe song and the Sundance song. And, I felt like I had knowledge, but I also feel like I don't have any knowledge. But because I've stepped into the role of leadership, sometimes when I'm really uncomfortable to do those kind of things, I just do them anyway, because I think that these guys get value out of it. And then after I was done, they were so grateful that I shared what I knew about the pipe, which is honestly, Robbie, it's like this little, right? And how has that experience been for you? People coming to you looking for advice, wanting your elderly opinion or spiritual advisory opinion, or talking about a pipe or the drum or whatever. How have you embraced and stepped into that role?
I really relate to that day. Like I only know really small, of any, of our way of life, not even enough, because I know people have lived their whole lives and they still don't know nothing, They don't know much. Like you said, like a lot of people don't know, that they're afraid, of our culture, our own culture. That's where, that's what our grandparents taught us, because they were afraid too, and my mom, my grandpa, he used to, just, gonna cut that, but, I just went blank.
That's okay, bro.
Yeah.
So
Maybe for a reason.
yeah, that's cool, bro. And sometimes our ancestors tell us don't go there,
Yeah.
and maybe that's what was happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, I would like to move into like what's happening this summer. Like you and I have been working together, or at least beginning our talks about me putting on that part of the event for the walk that you're doing. And I know you've had a lot of meetings with a lot of people already. And I was at a lot of those meetings last year, but this year I just haven't been able to make them. But I am committed to at least playing that role that I've been assigned by you. And so you're building this walk. It's the 3rd year.
Yep, 3rd year.
How many years do you plan on doing this? Every year or just 4?
Just 4 years.
Just 4 years?
Yeah.
And what was the main catalyst for you to even begin? How did this even start?
Well, I thought about, the ones we've lost in the city. Like, there's a lot of people, a lot of people we've lost to addiction, like homelessness, a lot of them, and thought about their, spirits and stuff. And, I wanted to do this walk for the people that we've lost, to addiction, to, a loved one, when somebody's loved one, your loved one, your relative, someone, struggling in the street,
And we're talking addiction, murder, suicide,
overdose.
And it's the city of Calgary. So are you representing all of the nations surrounding Calgary?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Every nation, every even non-nation, we've lost somebody on the street. Maybe like it affects everybody. Everybody. It affects everybody.
So this walk is in honor of the people who haven't made it home, and the walk is helping them go home.
Yeah, find their way. Like there's a sacred fire burning that whole time, and we'll walk them. We'll go get them, and we'll walk them back and walk them to the fire. And then after that,
Then they go home.
Find some closure. Go home.
And so this walk starts in Morley at the Sacred Fire.
Yeah.
You guys do a ceremony, and then a group of you start walking towards Calgary.
Yeah. Some local elders will do pipe ceremony, and we'll set up camp. And the next morning, as soon as the sun rises, we'll go start the walk.
And how many hours is the walk from there to Calgary?
About 17 hours.
Yeah. So 17 hours straight, and then you guys get picked up and you go sleep, and then you kind of start off again in the morning.
Yeah. We go we'll just walk from Morley to the end of just right the city limits, and then from there, the next day, we'll continue from the city limits to downtown and back to the city limits. And the 3rd day, we'll walk back home. Walking back home, and then the 4th day we'll have a feast for them. Feast. We'll have a big feast. Each year is getting bigger, and all the community members are taking part each year more. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, you can't do something like this alone. Like, what kind of helpers, organizations help Sober Crew put on an event like this?
They really need some volunteers for sure. Some donations, to pay for the elders and stuff. And, yeah.
And I know that a lot of churches are supporting you and getting behind and really help and donate time and their services and their buildings for sleeping or what food. And, tell us about who's... And I know you really want to give a shout out to them, right?
Yeah.
Because they kind of go beneath the scenes. And I guess they also get a lot of ridicule because of the church, being churches, right? And I think your perspective is no, we all got to work together. And this is part of truth and reconciliation.
Bridging, what's that word they use? Bridging gaps?
Yeah, bridging the gap.
Yeah, bridging the gap. And this,
when you see people, like I'm on Facebook, you're on Facebook, and we're both in the world, and there's a lot of real deep prejudice towards the church. And you're working with churches, and what's your opinion or your take on, the churches? Here's my take. I'll give you mine first. I really, truly believe, as part of our culture and as part of my recovery program, we're taught to forgive, right? And I know things have happened in our history that are not good, and we can easily point the fingers at who we think or know are responsible. But while we speak of intolerance of what they've done to us, then we can't be intolerant of them still also. So it's kind of like being a hypocrite. If I'm going to judge you for what you've done and then I do the same thing, but I mask it differently, and it's not exactly the same thing, don't get me wrong, but I'm to practice forgiveness. And so you'll often see I never respond to things that take sides on Facebook. I don't respond to those types of things because I think there's a bigger picture here and maybe we don't always see it. And yes, I know people get hurt, but in the same breath, Creator's asked me to try to have forgiveness. And me as a helper, you as a helper, we have to be able to forgive to be effective. Living in resentment is going to just make things worse and make us sick and make us unuseful. So my take is always, trying to understand that maybe some of the people were also indoctrinated with beliefs that weren't good, and they also had to live with what they've done, which is also not good. And, karma law, spiritual type of karma law will say that you have to live a good way, and if you don't live a good way, there will be consequences. And I believe maybe not just in this lifetime, but in other lifetimes too. And until you work that out with Creator and yourself, there's going to be a lot of suffering, and that's my take on it. You?
We gotta set up a good example for our grandkids, the ones that, and, it's just like how, I didn't know nothing about racism until, social media and stuff like that, And, when I see people starting to act racist, then, it kind of makes you feel that same way. Just like how, you gotta, not, I know that some stuff happened with the churches, their grandfathers, whatever happened, but it's, the way we gotta, it's not gonna change unless we start, if we hate, start, putting, calling them all, all kinds of stuff, and that, we're trying to fix things, right? For generations to come, and is that gonna fix something? You call them all kinds of names, and that's not gonna fix nothing unless we we do something and let our kids see where we're doing something good. Our grandkids, our young ones see, because there's a lot of influence, especially in the movies too. I grew up in the 90s, and I got influenced by gang movies, back in Tupac back then, so it's just they're watching, we gotta make a good, make, a good impression, like, be a good role model, do good things, and then, they'll do good things, and, so on, if we start being some sort of way, then they'll start being some sort of way,
Yeah, if you live in principles and love and kindness, that will rub off on our kids. And And if we live in resentment and hatred, that also rubs off on our kids. And I can tell you from my experience, because I was very resentful and hateful, angry and violent for a lot of my life, especially when my kids were young, you know, they had a lot of those ideologies as youngsters. And then when I sobered up and I tried to live a different way, I saw that the things that they had learned from me, they were living. But I think luckily for me and my family is I've changed a lot, and they've seen positive change, and they have wanted that change. So a lot of those negative patterns that they might have been inheriting or learning from me, they've been able to let go of and change and do it a different way, in a better way. And so you're right. It's so important for us to like lead by example and not respond and fight. And
I'm trying to, like, I've lived a certain way of life my whole life, you look at me wrong, if you stare at me more than 3 seconds and we have a problem, that kind of attitude. But now, like, different, trying to do different nowadays, try to do, handle things different in a good way, handle situations better, And I gotta teach myself, that's what for myself. I'm teaching myself how to handle things better, look at things better, and a lot of cultures and praying and ceremonies really helping me a lot with that, just helping me with my thinking, the way I think now. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, I hear you, man. And yeah, this journey of recovery has really been an enlightening experience. And
Well, yeah.
I can't even believe the person I am today compared to who I was. And I know you feel the same way about you. And people that knew us also can't believe it. So, I think we're gonna wrap her up here. But I just want to thank you for coming down and sharing a lot of your heart and vulnerability and what you're doing and what Sober Crew does. And if there was one message that you could leave here for the viewers, listeners, for somebody that might be watching this and really struggling with, addiction or homelessness or identity crisis being First Nations, do you have any advice on maybe what they can do moving forward?
A lot of stuff. I'd say, go to your elders, and go to your grandparents, if they're still alive, and, just learn from them and just lead by example and just do good things,
And don't give up.
Don't give up, attract the good spirit, even you do good things, you think good things, you feel good things, everything good, all that happy, good feelings will start coming back. And because, when you're doing bad things, negative thinking, negative feeling, hate, all those things, and you feel miserable, and that's when, wide open for the negative spirit, the way I look at things, is I don't know why. You call it spiritual malady,
Melody?
yeah, or yeah. I believe, yeah.
Yeah, it's most humans, I believe. I know society says it's mental health, and, to some degree, yeah, it is mental health, but I think it's a spiritual health crisis more than it's a drug and alcohol crisis. It's a spiritual health crisis.
Yeah.
And if we can work on that spiritual malady through a lot of the things that we talked about today, looking at ourselves in a deep and honest way and really wanting to change and looking at the dark places within us and trying to be positive and going positive and learning from that darkness and putting ourselves in environments that are where people are growing and they're on the same path, and praying and meditating, going to ceremony, talking to our knowledge keepers. Like, all of these things are super important for that change, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? So again, Robbie, I just want to thank you for coming here and sharing your experience with us. And, I know you're going to continue to do good things, and you and I, my friendship with you is going to continue to grow. And so for anyone out there, right now, Robbie does drumming 2 nights a week. Can you mention the names of the places and the times?
On Wednesdays, we drum at Sonalta Community Hall at 4 p.m. to 5:30. And Sundays, at Lantern Church, 5 p.m. Inglewood. Okay. Lantern Church in Inglewood.
And the walk this year is going to be on what day and what times?
The camp will be August 17th, and we'll start walking in Calgary on August 18th. And we'll reach, and then we'll do the Calgary walk on August 19th and do the ceremony downtown where the performance and where the word, where you're going to handle that. And 19th and the 20th, we'll walk back to Calgary, Morley.
Well, I hope this podcast comes out before that so people can hear that. But you never know. It might not.
Yeah. Okay.
And the last thing is where can people find Sober Crew?
Facebook page is Sober Crew Calgary. And if you want to email donations, is sobercrewcalgary123@gmail.com.
Or they can also just email you on that address as well and get more information.
Yeah.
Okay, Robbie. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come down here into my studio and check it out and give us your experience, strength, and hope, and appreciate everything you do, my brother. And I love you, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill, for everything.
Hi.